This case looks at a subtle point about who can pick the doctors and experts on the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force. The question was whether the Health and Human Services Secretary can name those members without needing the President and Senate to step in. The Supreme Court said yes. It explained that these experts are inferior officers, meaning they serve under the boss at HHS. The Secretary can review their work, reject it, and even remove them whenever needed. Congress made this clear back in 1999, and again with a Reorganization Plan in 1966. Because of that oversight, the court found the appointments fit under the Constitution's rules. Stay tuned. We'll dig into what this means for the everyday health recommendations you see, and why a single vote split the justices. Nine Robes uses nonpartisan, everyday language to focus on the facts of what the Supreme Court is saying. Here, you'll find clear, concise summaries of every Supreme Court opinion, stripped of legalese and clickbait headlines. Each post breaks down the facts, explains the court's reasoning, and highlights the crucial details that often go unnoticed. It's not just about what the court decided, it's about why those decisions matter. To give you a deeper understanding of the cases that define our nation's legal landscape. These summaries are generated by AI. Be careful and consult reputable sources when in doubt. In 1984, HHS established the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force to issue evidence-based recommendations on preventive health services. The Affordable Care Act of 2010 made any service that the task force rates A or B subject to mandatory no-cost coverage by most health plans. A group of individuals and small businesses led by Braidwood management challenged that requirement, arguing that task force members exercise significant governmental authority and therefore are officers of the United States under the Appointments Clause of the Constitution. They claimed that because no statute appoints those members with presidential nomination and Senate confirmation, their appointments by the HHS Secretary violate the Constitution. The district court agreed, finding task force members to be principal officers with no superior, and enjoined enforcement of preventive services mandates against Braidwood. The Fifth Circuit affirmed, holding task force members to be principal officers because the Secretary lacks direct review authority over the substance of their recommendations. The government petitioned for Supreme Court review. Justice Kavanaugh delivered the opinion, joined by Chief Justice Roberts and Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, Barrett, and Jackson. He framed the question as whether task force members are principal officers, requiring presidential nomination and Senate confirmation, or inferior officers, whose appointment Congress may vest in department heads. 1. Removal authority. Task force members serve at will. No statute limits the Secretary's removal power. Such removal authority furnishes a powerful tool for control sufficient to create here-and-now subservience. 2. Review authority. The Secretary can use his rulemaking power and his general supervisory authority over the Public Health Service to prevent any A or B rating from taking effect during the ACA's minimum 1-year lag. Officers whose decisions are reviewable by a principal officer are inferior even absent full removal authority. 3. Statutory vesting. Congress vested appointment authority in the AHRQ Director by empowering him to convene the task force, a term coextensive at the founding with appoint. A reorganization plan ratified by Congress in 1984 transferred all functions of public health service officers, including appointment, to the HHS Secretary. Thus, since June 2023, the Secretary has validly appointed all task force members. Conclusion. Task force members are inferior officers appointed in compliance with the Appointments Clause. The Fifth Circuit is reversed and the case remanded. Justice Thomas, joined by Justices Alito and Gorsuch, dissented. He would have remanded the case because no lower court had ever passed on the government's new statutory vesting theory. He rejected that theory, reasoning that convene does not mean appoint, and that, absent clear statutory language, the Appointments Clause's default requires presidential nomination and Senate confirmation. He also argued that the Reorganization Plan did not transfer appointment authority for post-1966 enactments, and in any event, a presidential reorganization plan is not law capable of vesting appointment power. Because he would find no valid vesting, he would hold task force members to be principal officers. 1. Principal versus inferior officers. The Constitution distinguishes between two classes of officers. Principal officers, like department heads, must be appointed by the President with Senate confirmation. Inferior officers are those whose work is directed and supervised by principal officers, and may be appointed by Congress, delegating that power to the President, judiciary, or department head. 2. Removal power as supervision. At-will removal by a principal officer is a powerful tool for control and ordinarily suffices to render an appointee an inferior officer. Conversely, the absence of removal protection creates a corresponding presumption of uncontrolled authority. 3. Review power as supervision. An inferior officer's decisions must be subject to review by a principal officer. The ACA's one-year lag and HHS's supervisory powers over the task force function as review tools. 4. Clear statutory vesting. To depart from the default of presidential nomination plus Senate confirmation, Congress must clearly vest appointment in a department head. Congress need not use magic words. Founding-era usage treated synonyms like convene, allot, or assign as vesting. The Reorganization Plan then carried those powers to the Secretary by transferring all functions of the Public Health Services officers. 5. Constitutional avoidance. The court preferred an interpretation that preserves task force membership as inferior officer appointments to avoid challenging the statute's constitutionality. These principles preserve the executive branch's separation of powers through hierarchical accountability without imposing a one-size-fits-all confirmation requirement on every specialist advisory body. Find us online at 9robes.ai. That's the number 9robes.ai. Like and share this podcast with friends that like to be informed. 9 Robes provides AI summaries of U.S. Supreme Court cases. AI makes mistakes. People make mistakes too. We genuinely do our best to provide you with the most accurate summaries, but our best sometimes includes errors.